from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Home to ideas, fresh, uncensored, served, du jour, idea of the day. We'll do that with the idea of the day. Station does not answer to anyone, which is really cool these days. I mean, really. That means that no one gives us money. Certainly not us. No one gives Dave for me a dime, irrespective. But if you can donate to the station, please do. It's listener-funded radio, so it's for you. It's all for you. And Dave and I do this for free. And any donation is good, including crypto if you have it, gold, diamonds, silver, shekels, drachma, rupees. Hey, all the currencies of the world. So donate if you can, and it's much appreciated. Today is the 19th of November. What? It's almost summer here in Australia, the 19th of November. Oh my goodness, 2024. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line all the time, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home. The great tabletop digital radio. But you know what? The archives are free. Another good reason to donate if you can, or tell people about the station. That's also good. You know, tell people about the station, just as good as donate. The more people know, the more people listen. It's all good because there's a purpose to this madness. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it's a mucus-filled darkened jungle.
That's the kind of thing you can't unsee in your mind's eye. For me, of course, it's the direct people, and we'd like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Thank you. Must apologize for Sunday. Thought I could make it home, but took my daughter for her 11th birthday to Luna Park, which
awesome.
Turned out to be a lot bigger than I remembered it. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, right.
It's massive. And we got there when it opened at 10. And it was just whole day, 8-9 hours, just spent there. It's an all-day pass, which was surprisingly affordable. So it's a good day out if your kids like rides. Some of them were quite hair-raising. I'm not really a ride person, so I didn't go. My wife went on the rides. A couple of the uncles and such, so that was all good.
You're lucky you got there before it's closed permanently.
Well, yeah. Is that actually going to happen?
Well, that's what I heard. I'll find out in a minute.
Yeah, I heard something similar. That'd be a real shame. But yeah, look, I'm glad. This was the first time my daughters and my son went there. They had a great time. They had a ball. It's like a mini Coney Island, right? It is a mini Coney. It's big, but Coney Island is bigger. So it's actually pretty cool. People there, everybody's there to have a good time. There's just no bad vibe. It's a nice place, right under the bridge, you know, on the North Sydney side.
Mm-hmm.
It really is it's a very. If it were to close, it'd be a very, very sad day indeed. Now, speaking of sad days, I want to be very clear on something here. we talk about bad things as though they happened in the past and they're no longer happening again. Right? That's how we talk about bad things, Dave. Slavery. Terrible, terrible thing. Racism. We don't do that anymore. And pedophilia or sexual assault or things like that are the same. You look at the church crimes, not just the church, actually it's all the churches. I mean, the head of the Anglican Church had to resign over it. So that happened, and everybody knows about the Catholic Church. But this is something that really bothers me a lot. It really does. Not just because I have kids, but it's always bothered me. There are people in power, especially people in power. I mean, there are other people that are just born this way and can't help themselves. I guess it's just chemical imbalance. You have to remove from society, but ultimately, are they really to blame if there's something wrong with their brain? I don't know. Point is that people in power, especially people in power, people in authority, there are very few people that do not abuse power. Very few that I know. In history, in real life, in general. And Ellen Jones, all people, Alan Jones. One of the, if you live in Australia, and especially in Sydney, you know Alan Jones. There's no way you cannot know him. He's a massive radio personality. Yeah, AM radio, talkback. Very opinionated, like a shock. Oh, I guess a shock jock, I guess you call it. Rich. Very well connected. Oh my goodness, very well, very powerful. And some say that there was a time when he was more powerful than any Australian prime minister, because he had such a huge sway with the public as well, right? And he's now been accused of these deeds. And just take a step back here and realize who went on Epstein's plane. Yeah, just take a step back. Who went on Epstein's plane? Who are they? See, we first of all, there are two things we need to be very clear on. One, modern slavery exists. We've discussed this. The UN estimates there are about 6 million slaves in the world today. That's a very conservative estimate. 6 million. And the other thing that exists is trafficking of people. Right? Women, children, you can imagine for what purpose. I don't want to say it, just makes me sick even thinking about it. But that's a real thing. It actually happens. It's not an imagination. It's not some kind of fantastic idea Mackie and Dave are sprouting here. It happens every day. Right? And to plead ignorance is to condone it. And it is not the criminal networks only who do this. Okay? In fact, the funny thing is this. In America, what's this guy? The guy who was just nominated for Department of Justice, head of, what's his name?
Getz.
I can't remember his name, I'm sorry.
Getz.
Getz. That's right. That's right.
And it's G-A-E-T.
Yeah, Getz. Yeah, so he was under investigation of people trafficking as well, underage call girls, etc. Funny thing is this, since the investigation only referred to members of the House, it has now been stopped because he has resigned from the House because he was nominated for this new role.
That's right.
So the rot is deep in every possible scenario. The rot is deep. There's no place that isn't rotten. You think the Donald Trump administration is not rotten? They're all rotten. Every last politician, every billionaire, every parasite, they're rotten to the core. Okay? Yeah. It's how it is. I listened to this wrestler, of all people, once. Very famous wrestler. And I can't remember his name, but like the 80s. He was big in the 80s. And there was this documentary on, I think it was Vice, the Vice channel. And they're looking at the lives of wrestlers and afterwards and whatnot. And essentially, what he said was this: he was very popular, obviously, with the ladies as well, and because he was popular, he had a lot of offers, and he took advantage of the situation for himself. That was all consensual. Don't get me wrong. But then he goes, you have so much of it that it becomes boring. He tried to do different things, maybe having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 partners at once, or whatever the case may be. Just to try to make it more interesting, because it's so easy to obtain. It just becomes boring, in his words. And that'd be the same, or more so, for powerful, rich people. That it's on tap. Anything is attainable. Anything can be purchased, ultimately, right? I love the scene in not Borat, but The Dictator. I think it's called The Dictator, right? With Sacha Baron Cohen, I should say. Sacha Baron Cohen.
That's better.
That's the one. Where he just purchases all these famous actresses and actors and whatever, and whoever he wants to accompany, keep him company in his bedroom. It's quite amusing. It's got a whole pin-up wall of people he's been with, including Arnie. And Arnie's I don't like his all face. Of course, it's nonsense, but nonetheless, this is reality, right, for a lot of people, especially people that are born into billions and billions of dollars. I mean, there's nothing you can't do or have.
Mm-hmm.
None of the rules apply to you. So why do I keep talking about this? Because it is one of the great wrongs of the ages, where the powerful, the corrupt, the bored even, do whatever they like. And many people have no recourse. Be it, abductions and trafficking. In some instances, your parents might sell you into slavery. That happens. Right? It's horrific, but it's a blind eye. I mean, we all turn a blind eye. Oh God, I don't want to see it. Oh no. I mean, what do you think is happening to these displaced people everywhere? I remember when the Ukraine war first broke out, they actually arrested a whole bunch of people that tried to lure Ukrainian women into these vans under the pretense of helping them. Okay? That happened. That happens in every war zone. I mean, these are places of opportunity for a lot of people.
Should we do a long question? What are you going to say, Max?
Well, before
he, the perpetrator. It's not always a he, but mostly it is a he. The perpetrator looks for opportunities. Yeah? People go into the priesthood because they know they have a great herd from which they can, extract their victims. They know this. Teachers, similarly. Right? I mean, these people aren't stupid. They go into these professions. Not all of them, obviously, but there are a lot of people that are caught, and they went into those professions for a reason. And sometimes it's opportunity. You might not have thought about this initially, but then you think, oh, Jesus is great. You have all this opportunity. I mean, a priest. And that's why it was never really a thing in the past, 50s and 60s. The people are coming forward now, but back then, the priest in your neighborhood, was like God, like the representative of God. Can't do any wrong. Better not, get the priest upset. Go to hell. And then the kids would say, or would be told, oh, it's your fault. You must have done something wrong for the priest to be interested in you this way. You bring sin. The child, would be terrified. Wouldn't say anything. And we're talking about over the course of history, probably talking about millions of kids, millions of children, millions and millions of children. And other people as well abused.
And that's only the sitting ones from within the church system, but you have, remember, boys' homes.
Oh, completely,
yeah.
And
then religious schools.
Oh, rather, yes. Any place that
institutionalized abuse.
Yeah, where you've got an authority structure, right? In the olden days, it was quite harsh. My grandfather went to grammar school. He was born in 1902, I think it was, or 1901. Either. And he told me about grammar school, and back in those days, they would mete out corporal punishment with a stick on the bare bottom, he would say, and they would always pick their victims. They would always, beat the same kids. The kids from the poorer families, he said, the kids that weren't maybe as smart or that didn't really have the social standing. I mean, predators aren't stupid. Predators are not going to pick an alpha to compete with. They're not going to pick the child of an alpha or a child that is an alpha. That's no. That would be insane. Yeah? I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I can't even think about it, but if something were to happen,
I hear you.
I know me, and I know what I've done in the past. I know my limits, of which there are very few.
Yeah, let's say it nicely. That it would be a very challenging episode in your life if you were to discover something like that. I get it.
Oh, yeah, and many people feel the same way. Except I know what I can do because of the things that happened in my past. And it's a really horrendous kind of thing, and it happens still today. It's not something that, see, these things are always talked about like they happened. That doesn't happen anymore. It's happening right now, and it'll happen tomorrow and the day after and next year, and it's right now that this is happening to someone somewhere, to many someone somewhere. Okay, that's the truth. I don't know how many people are listening to this. But think about that. If you say something, if you see something, if you hear something, if you suspect something, do something.
Mm-hmm.
Intervene. Be that person.
Yeah.
Be that person. Because it is rampant. And again, I'll be honest with you, Dave. I was shocked because I was driving my kids to school. It was right in the morning. The rate was at 7:45. And then just hit the news stations when I was driving them to school. And I thought, oh, what? Because I thought I had misheard. I thought they said Alex Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. The perpetrator is an Australian called Alan Jones.
Yeah.
So the alleged perpetrator. So. Totally, Mickey. I know that I've said something that's very similar to what you just said in the past. I remember growing up with kids that were from boys' homes. In England, for that matter, there were many graves found at these child's homes with undocumented children. A lot of people just left them at the doorstep, you know what I mean? And they were looked after. So there was a lot of, child-sized skeletons found in the backyard, not in a closet, but in the backyard, of a lot of these places that had claims against them of institutionalized abuse. I know I grew up with near to Dalmar Children's Home, and I was beaten unconscious in the first minutes before the bell in high school, first day.
What? Jeez.
And I've told the story before, Mickey, but I was delivered home by the principal, who just, school hadn't started yet, right? So it didn't officially happen. And here's your son. He still hasn't come to, but I'm sure he'll be fine. And my dad had something to say to the school about that.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah. But, just saying this, and there was a Catholic boys' school near, I'm not going to mention the names, but, near where I lived when I grew up. And there, some friends went there, and they said there were people that you didn't want to find yourself alone with that worked at the school. Now, I can't substantiate any of these. You know how rumours get around within the school, you don't know if they're true or not, and all I heard were those things. And look, it frightens me that it has happened for centuries. You're right, it'll probably still happen for centuries. And there was a study done on how civilization dealt with this kind of news over the centuries. And it was initially, it's a police matter, and then after, 60 years or more, and it was still going on, then it was the church would say, look, we're gonna deal with it our way, and they just move people around and nothing really happens, and then when it gets out of control again, it becomes police matters. And this sine wave of taking responsibility, or taking it from the church, the responsibility, and dealing with it as a criminal case, it comes and goes. And it's never mentioned in popular news that it is a global thing. It's only mentioned in local news as a local event, and people can't piece it together.
Yeah.
But everyone has a local news story about this kind of thing. I'm not saying this was a segue from the Alan Jones story, his alleged, actions. But yes, it is a sore point for a lot of people, and I know I've encountered some friends of mine who have gone through stuff, and it's not necessarily in the same way, but in all types of abuse, it's just not right. And I thought we'd be smarter. I thought we'd have protections. Is there a way of telling whether someone's doing this or not? I'm not sure, really. But, we all we've been taught to look for signs, with all the things, and it's awful. It's awful from top to bottom.
It is, my friend. And look, all we can do is raise awareness. And like I said, if you see something, suspect something, even if you suspect it, I know it's tough, I know it's hard. I get it, right? But to step in. I mean, the worst thing that'll happen, you have some egg on your face. That's okay in my mind. That's okay, right? I'd rather be embarrassed than the other alternative. There's another thing, Dave. Of course, the war drums are beating. The Philippines have been hit by, is it the 4th now or the 8th? I'm losing count, but there's this another typhoon.
Oh yeah.
That hit them really hard. It's just, I mean, it just never happened before. Like
it
this.
Had 14
in 1 month.
meters, Mackie.
Yeah.
14 meters of storm surge.
I mean, you go, what? It's like, because the thing is, that's incredible, to be honest with you. It's in many ways, right? And
they likened it to a tsunami.
Yeah. The amount of water that came down, I mean, phenomenal. Not in a good way. Phenomenal. But I do forget how many in 1 month they had. I want to say 8.
Oh, they called it a super typhoon as well.
Yeah, but there were, how many were there? I'm sure there were. Here we go, let me stop and check that. I remember there were quite a few, and I was shocked to see that. And I've got people there.
Yeah, it says Man Yi, which was the name of it, is an unprecedented 4th typhoon to hit the Philippines in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah,
according to a CNN analyst. Yeah.
I mean, what?
And it's a super typhoon. So, Cat 5 isn't enough then.
No.
We need a Cat 6 then.
Yeah, this is something else. I mean, the hurricanes the hurricanes are still battering the Atlantic as well. I mean, it's not like it's over, right?
No, that's right.
It's all happening. We are in our thousandth day of the war.
Yep.
For Ukraine and Russia have been at war for 1,000 days, and the Americans have now authorized the use of
here it is. Yep.
long-range missiles to be used again in Russian territory, in the Russian, which is interesting. And Russia said, "Oh, if you do that, then you can expect something really severe."
Yeah.
As a response.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
they're talking it up like it could be the trigger for World War III.
Potentially. I mean, the thing is, Russia doesn't have a leg to stand on. I mean, if Russia can't defeat the Ukraine, and let's make no mistake, the Ukraine had no help initially from the West, zero. It was the Ukrainians that held the Russians off for a couple of weeks, right? Just to be clear, right? Then the Americans and the NATO, they all came in, and and it got a bit more even-handed. But the Ukrainians managed to stop the Russian advance. And another thing to consider: not one soldier, apparently, not my research, but things that I've gotten from a few different sources now. None of the original soldiers of the Russian army that started this war are still around in this war. Not a one.
No.
Not a one. And they have suffered hundreds of thousands of casualties. I mean, I know we discussed this, but at some point, surely, at some point, the Russians have to go. We've lost hundreds of thousands of people, dead or wounded. How can this go on? I mean, yes, I think there's I don't know, it's about 180 million or 100 million Russians. There's a few. It's a few Russians. There's a lot of them, right? But it'll hurt. I mean, they're wiping out an entire. Because the thing is this: the young people, young men, and they're wiping out an entire generation. But you know what else happened? And this comes from various different news outlets. 143 million Russians. 143. This came from a few different news outlets, and not the BBC, but I got it from German outlets, and I got it from some French, and I think I got it from RT, which surprised me. You know how they emptied the prisons in Russia to get them to fight? So essentially what happened was, if you're in prison for any offense, rape, murder, drugs, it didn't matter, and you go to fight, you're done. You're paroled, you're pardoned if you come back alive. And now it turns out, this is really scary. This is actually really scary. It turns out over the last a couple of years when this has happened, hundreds of Russians have been killed or injured by returning criminals, criminals that were fighting in the Ukraine, and none of them, and this is really something that surprised me, none of them are being prosecuted because they've already got the amnesty. And in fact, if they were making it to court, they just go, I'll go fight again. I'll just go fight again. That's something that is, I mean, Putin must be sitting on a powder keg. Okay? Yeah, Russia soldiers bringing wartime violence back home. And the Moscow Times, Russian soldiers have killed over 100 people since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion, blah, 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 blah. These Russian convict soldiers earned their freedom, and now they're coming back. Now, you have to survive 6 months. I think that's the rule. Then you're free if you're from jail. But these are violent criminals that were sent to the front line. And I guess for them it doesn't. I mean, it's better than jail, I guess. Seems to be. That really worries me, Dave. That these people are now being let loose on the civilian population in Russia.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because that's, I mean,
they earned their freedom according to the rules.
Well, they have, according to Putin's rules, right? But now they're coming back to their reoffending.
And well, they liked it in prison a bit more. Not everyone wants to escape prison. There's a lot of people who will immediately offend just to go back in because it's scary. That's
a true enough statement. That is true. It's a real thing. You become institutionalized. You no longer know how to function outside society.
That's right. Did you know that there's a story here in Newsweek? The accuracy of it is dubious, but I'll say that between November 18th and 19th, that's today, yesterday, Russian military suffered the loss of 1,600 troops, 17 tanks, and 153 vehicles. Well,
this was reported by a number of different outlets, but October
Yeah.
apparently, Russian losses were 1,500 soldiers a day.
Yeah, that's pretty right.
I mean, if you, it's you'd think, as a clear thinking normal human being, you'd think those kinds of losses are unsustainable. You'd think, and clearly they are. They're sustainable, that is, because they're still happening. And there's no, and in fact now there's thousands of North Korean soldiers, and that's really the and you're right about your World War III comment, really, because the danger here is the North Korean involvement.
But they're shocked by two things. One, the level of technology that they've never seen, and because they're isolated with their media and everything. So
there's that. Yeah.
There was one guy, the North Korean, who had been chased by a drone, and he dove for his life, says himself, and it hit the APC or APV, right? ATV, I suppose, all-terrain vehicle that was carrying the troops, and he was the lone survivor. And he said he couldn't, he'd never seen such a thing before.
Oh, really?
Like a drone that that killed everybody. A drone. It's not even an inbound missile or anything, right? So, it is crazy, the Russians' technology that's being sent into war, because it's non-replaceable, and we've mentioned this hundreds of times on our show, is when a war begins and you start losing your A-grade machinery, you're never replacing them. War is a harsh thing, and especially today with this super high-tech stuff that all the big countries have, the specialized materials and access to those is going to be slim to none in a conflict.
Oh, completely.
So Russia's down to their T-42 tanks now.
They're gonna, what? Look, this is gonna sound facetious, but I think it's definitely within the realm of the possible. They're gonna start raiding the war museums.
Yeah, and, totally.
Well, it was good enough to kill the Nazis. It's good enough to kill the Ukrainians, right? Right? Yeah. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. You're right, boss. It's unbelievable. I mean, I honestly, number one, I didn't think it would last this long. I really didn't.
Totally agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And number two, I would have thought that by now the Russian people would have had a gutful. And I mean that, right? Because those kinds of losses, I mean, it's almost unimaginable.
I don't think they're advertising the losses so much.
Oh, no, but people know. My son is not coming home. Right? I mean, that people kind of notice that, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or my husband is not, or whatever it might be, right? Or my father, or anything really. It's not like people don't notice that particular thing. So it's not easy to kind of hide. And I find that astounding, though, that there are these losses, and look, if you lose close to 1 million soldiers, both killed in action and also injured in action, right? The knock-on effect it has on your population must be enormous. You can't hide that. It's not possible to hide that kind of.
Think about the breeding population going forward.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost. I mean, it boggles the mind. How are they functioning as a society? I mean, people must be terrified. Okay, yeah, fair enough. People are terrified of Putin and what he could do to you and all that wonderful stuff, right? I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a point where you go, okay, well, this is just, I can't take it anymore. It's just too much. We've lost too many people. And similar, this is interesting because the Gaza war. it's a similar kind of scenario, in that Netanyahu and his cronies, like I said from the start, by the way, they have a very specific goal in mind, which is the destruction of the Palestinian people in Gaza. That's it. As simple as that. That's all they want. That's what they're interested in. And they're doing it. Because by now, after more than a year, you'd think they would have degraded Hamas and Hezbollah sufficiently. Right? Now they're moving to annex. The parliament has ratified annexation laws. So they're going to annex part of the West Bank. They're going to annex. They want Gaza. Like I hate to be right about this.
You were right, Mickey. They want Gaza. That's right.
Yeah, and they want Gaza Palestinian free. No more Palestinians. We don't. It's just not what we want. So and they're getting it. They're getting it. What they're also getting is the never-ending revenge war. This will never end. The Israelis can never ever not look over their shoulder. It will never be peaceful there, ever. It can't be. Not after this. Not after this. And I maintain, and I know it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I do, the longer this goes on and the more it is obvious what the actual aims are, the more I'm convinced this was something that the Israelis let happen. If not actively planning.
If I was going to use any phrasing around it, it's their, Bay of Tonkin or their Pearl Harbor.
Completely.
It's their 9/11.
Yeah, and I know people will call me anti-Semitic. I'll have you know that my ancestors were Ukrainian Jews, so you can call me all kinds of things that you want, and
I've got a very similar heritage.
Yeah, and never make. We realized that we might have been in neighboring villages at some point, Dave and I, potentially.
Yeah, I know.
Who knows?
Going back at least to great-grandparents.
Yeah. But the thing is this: people always make the mistake of confusing Israel with Jews. The state of Israel is a Zionist state, which Zionism is a secular movement, socialism ultimately. The kibbutz movement is Zionist, okay, and it is not Jewish. Yes, the majority religion is Judaism,
yeah,
but they are Israeli Christians, they're Israeli Muslims, they're Israeli Druze, they're atheist Israelis. Okay, so yes, people call it the Jewish state, but I don't like that. I think it's wrong. It's factually wrong. It's not a Jewish state per se. Yeah, it's from a religious point of view. And,
well, it's the same as calling Australia a Christian country.
Well, correct. Which is
it's also wrong.
Mm-hmm. It is wrong. It's not even rudimentarily true anymore. But the thing is this. Interestingly enough, the Jewish people, as it were, that are now living in Israel, etc., these places, they may not, in fact, be the original Jews. We're pretty sure. Well, when I say we, the learned people, there is a Ethiopian Jewish community that is probably the oldest surviving Jewish community. If you want to talk about, like the old, right. Jewish ways and what it was like back in the thousands of years ago, which are treated like second-class citizens in Israel because they're black. Mm. How about that for irony? It's you can't escape racism. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, what. Doesn't matter what you went through either. You think that the people that had gone through the Holocaust would have a bit more sensibility than.
That's what I said. I've said that
you're right though.
Since the beginning. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You think the most persecuted people would just tuck their head in and just not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or be more surgical about it, and then once the mission is accomplished, then you're get the hell out of there, right? Nah, that's not how we roll.
Well, there's beefs with Iran, so look, if you lived, let's say you lived in a cul-de-sac, and everyone around you hated you, what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, fair.
You know, I just think that, and I mentioned this on Sunday, that there is learned hatred and there's acquired hatred.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't live in a world where I hate anyone in particular, broken down into any group. I just don't. It doesn't matter who they are. You know, I mentioned on Sunday the term pork chop, and I mean that with the most respect, just calling someone out for some stupid act they've done. And that's all. That is it. And how I've said this before, but I'll say it last time and I hand it to you. I don't know what it's like to live with, I think we called it the Hatfields and what was it called? The feuding families.
Oh, in America?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't recall.
Oh, I can't remember.
The McCoys? Was the McCoys?
The McCoys, that's right. So the McCoys and the Hatfields.
Yeah.
So you were born into a family that hated on the others. So I wasn't born into a family that hated on anybody.
And you're the poorer for it.
So living in a place, you've got to understand what that hatred is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mace is answering the question. So I'm going to throw it to you, Mackie. I'm going to have a coughing fit in a second.
No, you go and cough away, my friend. Look, Dave is right. And what we're seeing now, though, what has been created, more so than in the years preceding. I remember the Oslo Accords, and I remember Arafat, and I remember, Perez, and then a whole bunch of other people, trying to figure out a way forward. Two-state solution. The two-state solution, as far as Netanyahu's, as far as Netanyahu's government is concerned, that's dead. It's dead. Not going to happen.
Well, the two-state solution is it's us and then us over there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well,
by the sounds of it,
it's like your state is 30 miles inside the Mediterranean, off the coast of Israel.
Sure.
There you go. What? Yeah, off you go. So that's really it's a terrible state. There's no coming back from this. There is no coming back from this. This is only going to get worse. There was a chance for a little while there.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I think at least there was a little chance that something could have been achieved. That is now completely out the window, and now you can hear the rhetoric though as well. Iran is the next target.
Yeah, that was always the last target on the list.
Yeah. Correct, and now there's precedent, and they're quite keen to get that action. I think let's get Iran, and then we've got them all. And the funny thing is this: that's exactly what Saudi Arabia wants. What a shock!
Mm-hmm.
what a shock!
Hey, they're doing it for us.
Oh yes. Well,
no, they're not. They're doing it for themselves.
Oh,
yeah, but it benefits us. Woo! Right?
No, they really are doing it for. And look, this has been the plan for a long time. We know that the invasion of Kuwait and the babies that were thrown out of the incubators, that was all nonsense. We know that now. All right. Nonetheless, it was propaganda. Fair enough. You understand that kind of stuff, I guess. But absolutely, we are now.
Mackie, it's the same.
Yeah.
We had children overboard over here.
Oh, it's the same thing. And the Americans are working. They're doing all the work for the Saudis, like a good lackey should. If you're laboring under the illusion that you're not working for the Saudis in America, any of you, I suggest you take a bite of a reality sandwich if you can find it, because
are they at the 7-Eleven?
I know, right? You're deluding yourself. You are absolutely working for the Saudis. Your entire nation. And the funny thing is this: you're working for the Saudis and for the Israelis. That's what you're working for. That's it. There's just if it so happens that American national interests are coinciding. That's a nice coincidence. We'll take that. That's a win. Yeah. But let's be very clear here. If it doesn't coincide with Saudi or Israeli interests, America is not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. It won't happen. Oh no, that's not true. Oh really? Do me a favor. Look at your history, all of it since World War II.
Mm.
Your whole history since the Cold War. See what happened, and yeah, that's insane, Dave. And then come back to me and tell me I'm wrong. Okay, tell me I'm wrong. And look at how this is really the most telling thing, Dave. Look at how the American president and then generally the officials from the government kowtow to the Saudi family. Just look at the body language when they meet. It is quite something to behold. It really is.
I mean, biggest vendor, right? So you're gonna treat them nicely.
Well, I hear you. You're not wrong. and I go back to the one thing which nobody can deny because it happened. A reporter was killed in the Saudi embassy or consulate. I think it was consulate.
And what happened?
And that was it.
Yeah.
And nothing. And the
Nothing
person. Everybody seems to know that this person ordered this, right?
That's right.
But you know what? Yeah. So what? What are you saying, Mick? I don't understand the question.
Yes.
Right.
I've been to. I haven't been to Europe, So it's funny. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no crystal ball into next year. I just don't. I know that I've had a premonition that it's not good. What happens soon? I don't know when soon is, but I kind of felt like we'd maybe smoothed out our course if you're in a plane that's going down, and now we're no longer falling out of the sky. It kind of felt like that for a minute, but I've got this uneasiness about me, and I'm not sure what's causing it.
I hear you. And that's look. What we're experiencing now is existential dread. I felt, I guess when I was a child, I wasn't as aware of it as I am now, but I felt similar when I was living in Europe and they were telling us to, hide under the desk in case of a nuclear attack, because that'll help you. Oh my God, we had nuclear drills in school. I remember this, and movies like the day after that was a pretty raw movie. I tell you what, that was a raw movie. But we lived with it, and there was an uncertainty. I mean, we just didn't know. There were slogans like "better a Pershing in your garden than an SS-20 on your roof," meaning a Pershing was the missile system that was deployed by Reagan back then, and an SS-20 was a Russian nuclear missile, and so those were the slogans I kind of grew up with. I still remember them. And it's a reality, right? And now we're living in a time where the certainties that we thought we had, with our world order, as I guess it's like we like to call it, those are gone. Mm-hmm. Those certainties are completely erased. There no longer are any certainties, in fact, and maybe that's what we're feeling, Dave. I don't know, and maybe that's what has prompted your premonitions as well. Maybe that's what's driving it. Maybe that's what has driven prophecy all throughout these centuries. This collective feel of dread, and it somehow triggers, some kind of insight or some kind of crack in space time. I don't know what you call it, because
look, it's bizarre. It really is bizarre. But I've had these all my life. Yeah. So
it's not a gift.
It's the same premonition. Yeah. And with all the preceding actions. Anyway, SpaceX is 9 hours away from launching its 6th Starship test vehicle, and that's good news, right? See how that goes. Hopefully it can do all the things they've planned, but it's filled with corrections from the last Flight 5. Changes, tons of changes.
Well, you got it, right? I mean, that's actually really good. You got a lot of mistakes.
Their speed of change between launches is fantastic. Like, I've never seen anyone do this. They're on a schedule, Mickey, that is unadvertised.
Yeah, but it's also not driven by a bureaucracy. When Donald Trump, look, I agree with Donald Trump completely. When he was talking about Elon Musk, right? Look at this guy, he can do this, he can do that, we can't do that, no one else can do that, and he's correct. And the reason he can do it is because it's his money, right? He doesn't have to tell anyone, like he doesn't have to go to anyone and say, oh, I want to do this, no, just kissing up another rocket. What was that going to cost? Do you care? It's my money, right? And he can. No one else can. So he has the means, right? And when you've got people that have the means and the will, both, then you can achieve amazing things. It's always been true, right? And Elon Musk wants, I mean, he wants to get to Mars.
That's right.
Hell or high water. I mean, think about that for a second. Why does he want to go to Mars so badly? I mean, what does he want, right?
There's only one thing I can put it down to.
Well, yeah, we talked about this, right?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
And
so good luck to him trying to get at least some people off the planet,
Yeah, sure. And he's right that we need to become a multi-planet species. I completely agree. And then, look, I would argue that we already are, but that's not a there. Oh, did you know that there's some reports out that I recently came across, probably older than that, but the human race apparently, according to some sources, was interfered with 65 times.
Wow.
So I don't know if have you heard of the I guess the interference theory? There's what was it called again? There's a specific term. I can't think of it now. But ultimately, the idea is that someone or something has interfered with our natural development, evolution, or whatever you want to call it. And
that's right.
And what was it called again?
Just brush over it because you're going to get stuck in it.
Yeah, I will. I know. I will get that. So, in any event, according to some sources, the modifications that were made were 65 in number. 65, not one. We weren't interfered with once, not twice, 65 times.
Well,
you think, okay, that's.
I watched the doco this week already, and there was a person talking about the scientific history that you don't know, people don't know of, and he mentioned that change of 48 to 46. Interventionism. That's right. So the chromosome count.
Yes.
So from 48 to 46, he mentioned it. He goes, no one can explain it. You're absolutely right. And I'm talking to the television. You're right, mate. We brought that up years ago.
Oh yeah. In fact, Lloyd Pye.
He taught us. Yeah.
Yeah. He was very specific around a whole bunch of stuff, and people dismissed him. And his research was he didn't get the credit that he deserved. That's all I can say.
Absolutely right.
Very, very upsetting. Very upsetting. And now, of course, he's passed on. I had contact with his wife for a little while, and she said to me, "No, the skull has gone to someone else now."
Someone else, yeah.
Yeah, we're no longer involved. So
and she was kind of happy to have, to let it go. But the music's going to start any second.
You're kidding. What? No. What? When did that happen? Oh, jeez, okay. This has been too fast. This has been Platos Escape. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. We enjoyed ourselves. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure there's something else that's going to come up that's going to be awesome in your morning or evening, whatever time it might be. Come and listen to us again on Thursday and then again on Sunday. And Dave?
I'm going to thank everyone in the chat room and be safe.